Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your neighbor here. Welcome down the Nook. Happy Sunday. I don't know if you're celebrating Canadian Thanksgiving today or tomorrow on Thanksgiving Monday, but if you're in Canada, I hope it's a great weekend for some family, friends, food, and of course, good whiskey. It's what led me to picking these two samples today. These come from Ray out of BC. An incredible gentleman, sends me unique expressions every now and then, and these two are both that. The first one we're going to talk about here is Paul John Mithuna. This is really only maybe a 5-year-old single malt, and it spent some time in New Oak and ex-bourbon, but it is certainly a unique release, rates very highly, and something that I haven't yet tried. Then, something even more unusual, this Kujira 24-year-old rice whiskey, aged, I believe, for 24 years in ex-bourbon. So it's only been open about 15 minutes. I need to get it to 24 minutes before I talk to you guys about it. But if you have any Paul John, some Indian whiskey, or if you have some Kujira rice whiskey, why don't you pour a little of those? Or anything that's likely going to be fantastic. I haven't had them yet. And come on back. 3, 4. Well, thanks for coming back. Thanks again, Ray. You're just amazing. I'm going to start a little out of the ordinary. Usually I lean into strength or lean into peat. In this case, I want to start with a Paul John. It's this, natural color, so dark, even though it's 5 years old. And then I'll probably take an extended break and come back with the Kujira and take the 24-year-old, just because I actually want to end my thoughts here with this older whiskey. So first, let's talk this Paul John. Now, I've had various Paul John expressions and actually like just about every one. Some of them can be a little aggressive. Some of them certainly have very bold flavors, but I haven't had this Mithuna. As I said in the opener, I think it's New Oak and ex-bourbon, and likely younger, but certainly a special release cask strength at 58%. And if this is New Oak and ex-bourbon, that has got to be the darkest I've ever seen coming out of those kind of casks, especially for that young age. I'm normally looking at that color thinking for sure ex-sherry, but we'll see what the nose and taste takes us with this Paul John Mithuna. Oh, wow. It has a lot of darker, thicker oaks, almost cinnamons. In fact, some part of this nose took me into a richer, darker bourbon. It has that much wood going on the nose. I would say chocolate, some spice, some fruit, but dark, like almost a dark cherry. If I wouldn't get a little bit of that maltiness, I would almost say this would be just a well-aged bourbon with some nutty barley going on in it. It's a very unique nose for a single malt whiskey, in my opinion. Let's try this one on the palate. Sláinte. Very rich and dark. The spicing continues into that thicker impression of Christmas cake spices. It's a little peppery actually on the finish, not in a bad way. I like spicy whiskey, but it's got a little cracked pepper, a little hot cinnamon. Significant amount of oak in the conversation. Already that oak on the nose is present in the palate, but it's a dark char. Slightly, it gives the impression of smoke. Obviously, it's not a peated malt, so it's not smoke like campfire like that, but it gets that almost tobacco, wood char, dark presence. This fantastic color is really speaking into the palate. It is rich. There's a little caramel, little nuttiness, and so many darker spices. Another quick sip. Cheers. I'm gonna say in that sip, I maybe even got a little bit of like an orange kind of citrus kicking around. Good chocolates coming through. Good spices, lots and lots of oak. Just surprising if it really is that age. At 5 years, the amount of oak coming off this expression is wild. The spicing is there. It's present. It's perky. So maybe that is part of the youth going on. This is a really good bottle. Lots and lots of spice, lots of kick, lots of presence. Not for the faint of heart. It's absolutely bold. And Ray, in his goodness, sent me a good enough sample that I'm going to be able to relax with this later. And on another special night, I'll be able to open it up. This is the kind of dram that if I had cigars, and I really don't, this is the kind of deck cigar or, near a fireplace type dram because it has such presence. Thanks. Thanks, Ray. A good dram for Thanksgiving. Thanks for staying with me. I've taken a little bit of a break, had a bit more water, and kind of tried to reset my palate so that I can approach this Kujira 24-year-old rice whiskey. It's released at only 43%, so obviously it's going to be significantly more relaxed than this 58. But it's also natural color, and it's got really good tones for natural color, but certainly way lighter than the Paul John that we started with today. So, I don't have a lot of experience with rice whiskey. It's not a go-to for me, so we're in new territory together, but let's see what this Kujira rice whiskey, older, 24 years, is like nose and palate. It's got a nice sweetness, some nice light fruits, but there's already a little bit of aroma to it that I don't get in a regular, single malt or full malt whiskey. And I'll be playing around to try to figure that out. It's actually kind of got a light woodness to it, which you'd think 24 years, 5 years, this would be the one that would be really pushing oak on the nose. I'm not getting that. I'm getting some nice vanilla sweetness. I'm getting some nice light fruit qualities, but sweet. I'm in Canada, so maybe like a maple syrup kind of sweetness. But there's a savory quality in the nose that I can't quite get at. Maybe a little sip will help me get there. So, sláinte, cheers. Thanks again, Ray. Very unique on the palate. It has a little lighter quality to it, not a thin, but just almost a fresher quality, and yet it kind of coats my lips. So it's got some oils kicking around in there, which I appreciate. Light sweetness, a little bit of peppering on the back end, and a little bit of, again, I'm gonna say like a fresher, lighter oak to it. Very interesting. Sweet vanilla, as I've said. Still chasing that fruit. Something a little bit tropical, something a little less known to me. But I've had, but I don't have often. So something a little bit tropical in its fruiting quality. Something else. Better have another little sip. Cheers. That is really good. I know it's made of rice, so I might say like a really nice sweet rice pudding. That's a dessert that I enjoy quite a bit. So it's got a little bit of that vanilla, almost like a milky tone to it. Not really, but that sweetness that carries in light brown sugars. And on the end, I'm going to say something that gives an impression of maybe licorice. A little bit of that kind of, I get that coating black ball licorice, but it's not way down that path. Just a little bit of that quite sweet, like really quite sweet. Not putting me off. Not sweet like some of my Canadian whiskeys that I really can't get behind, but there's quite a nice sweet and then light licorice tone to it. This is a delight. It's actually quite a contrast to where I started. I'm glad I took the extended break to reset my palate, because this Paul John, right away, I felt like I tumbled back down into brown sugars and burnt oaks and tobacco. And this just stays in this sweet, light tropical, gentle, beautifully dissipating, not dissipating like in a bad way. I'm just saying it fades into a finish that's lengthy but doesn't burn me out. This is kind of a burn you out, and this is really quite the opposite. I think going in, you knew that I was predisposed to like these in the sense that they're so unique, and they're certainly a whiskey that you have to pay a little bit more for. I was surprised to see both of them on the shelf virtually. Craft Cellars has the Paul John, and I think it was ZYN had the Kujira, or the other way around. But either way, they're both available for order out of Calgary. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool that these are available in my market. As I said, coming in, I chose these, well, because actually you reached out and reminded me that I had these on my sample tray, and I really did need to speak into them. And then also, it's Thanksgiving, and I'm going to spend a little time relaxing with family. And these are the kind of drams that I can sip just small amounts and think about, and what layers am I getting, and pull apart and just relax and enjoy. I wish that for you, whatever whiskey you have in your glass today or tomorrow. And if you're not in Canada, still a good excuse to pour something a little better and reflect on many of the blessings that we have. I know some of you, I'm sure, are going through some real hard times. And for you, I hope they turn out, the hard times end and better times come your way. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Ray. And you guys have a great weekend.